What's up, guys, and welcome back to Tech Planet. Today we're going to be looking at the Philodendron Burle Marx. It's a crazy plant, so let's check it out. Alright, so this absolute mutant plant we're going to be talking about today is the Philodendron Burle Marx, and this one is a variegated version, but either one is insane. And honestly, they're kind of like half variegated, half not. You really got to train them. But anyways, that's a side topic. Let's check this thing out. From above, this just looks like your average philodendron, and there really doesn't seem to be anything really mutant about it, besides some variegation if you want to count that as being a mutation. But it's far below the leaves where the mutation really is. At the base of this plant is an insane amount of growth. This is extremely unique to just this plant. I've never seen this kind of growth in any other philodendron. It is only the Philodendron Burle Marx. It is absolutely radical and wild. You can see just a million stems coming out of here and a million growth points. Not a million, it's a slight exaggeration, but there are still a lot, and it is crazy compared to most. Let's take a closer look and let me really show you how wild this mutation really is. As I spin this thing around, really focus and look at all the different growth points and new growth coming out of this bunch. It is an absolute rat's nest in here of growth points. It is crazy. As I spin this around, I bet you there's almost 20 new growth points coming out of this base here, which is going to make an absolutely full and insane plant. And you might not believe me that this is what all these plants look like, but believe it or not, I have a second one, and these were both traded from different people because I was trying to get a better variegated one. So I tried to trade with multiple people, just hoping I'd get a nice cutting with a lot in there. I think both plants have potential, but you really have to trim these back and really cut them to get that good variegated look and keep it growing well. And you'll kind of see more of that as we look at the base here. But look at both plants. They both have this crazy amount of growth where the base is just insane. I mean, you can't even see the dirt where these growth points are coming out because it is just so condensed. I'm surprised it doesn't even choke itself out with how many growth points are coming out of the center here. By now, you can probably already see that this is an abnormal philodendron, especially the growth patterns. But if you look even deeper and closer, you really see that mutation. I mean, look at the branches on some of these. They're so thick, and they just keep thickening, and there's growth points coming out of growth points, and there's ones hooking downwards, going upwards, coming out the side. I mean, they're going in every other direction. It is absolutely wild. This really looks like, to me, this concept called fasciation, which you see in flowers. Some succulents have this, like that mermaid tail. It's a random mutation that happens, and it causes these flowers to almost replicate in a weird way and get almost elongated where it grows just oddly. It really reminds me of that. I'll put the term on the screen so you can look into it because it's pretty cool. But it really looks like it's somehow stable, even though it's not usually a stable mutation. But with this philodendron, it seems to be the case. You might not be super familiar with philodendron growth styles, so I'll show you just a few other more normal, typical growth styles. The first one is going to be a more compact, rosette almost style. I don't really know how you would want to describe this one, but they grow pretty much upright. They're pretty compact in their internodal length, and they just put leaves out in sort of a spiral pattern and keep growing up. This one is a Jose Bueno variegated one. This is one of my few other variegated plants, that along with this Burle Marx. But you can see I'm actually really lucky with this one because there is a side growth, but it's more of a separate plant than growth coming out of growth, if that makes sense. Both of these plants still feature a central growth point that keeps continuing upwards, almost vine-like, but not quite vine because, like I said, internodal length is very short. Speaking about the vine type philodendrons, here's a Philodendron Splendid, and you can see that this one is truly vine-like. There's a long internodal length between each leaf, and by the way, this plant is becoming one of my favorites. Absolutely beautiful. But you can see this one as well only has one single growth point. There isn't any growth points coming out of any other nodes. It's going to typically just keep vining along with that single growth point leading the way, so that's pretty typical. One of the last examples then of other philodendron growth type are these crawlers. So these ones really crawl along the ground and they just keep marching along. They don't really climb up much. They actually prefer more of a terrestrial lifestyle. And you can see this one on this Philodendron Plummonii that it has only one singular growth. Sometimes you can get lucky with all of these plants and get another growth coming out of them, but it is nothing like the Burle Marx. It is such a unique plant. I also think that this one is a pretty underrated plant. The Burle Marx really grows well, and it's one of the few plants that stays super bushy. I mean, you really get a full pot with this plant. It is awesome, and it's easily becoming one of my favorites as well because it doesn't move super far away from the pot. It's not hard to control. I mean, I guess over time it's going to get bigger and bigger, but it's still really compact. I mean, looking at those close shots, you can see the millions of growth points all coming out of basically the center of this thing. It's crazy compact. It looks beautiful. It looks full. And if you can really train it with that variegation by taking cuttings and whatnot, you can have a really wonderful plant. But yeah, this one is super unique. The mutation is absolutely awesome, and I love it. And if you don't have one of these, I think you can pick them up pretty cheap now, especially the plain green one, which is just fine too. You can see most of mine are just plain green anyways, and I still love it. Well guys, I hope you liked that video. I hope you got to see really how wild this plant really is. The growth is insane on this thing, and I definitely recommend you guys try and find one. The green one is really cheap, and the variegated one isn't that much more, so you can pick either option depending on like what your budget is. But it's a super awesome plant, and you get to see that crazy growth. I mean, it is insane. The amount of growth points on that thing blew me away, and it just keeps getting bigger. Hope you guys enjoyed seeing this plant, and as always, may your plants grow strong and healthy. I'll see you next time.